This K&N air intake system is designed to increase vehicle power and acceleration by reducing restriction in the intake path. The 57-2546-1 air intake has received a CARB EO number, and it is street legal in all 50 states. This air intake system fits 2003 through 2007 Ford F250, F350, F450, and F550 Super Duty pickups, as well as 2003, 2004, and 2005 Ford Excursion models with 6.0-liter turbo diesel engines, in addition to other vehicles identified on the K&N website or catalog. K&N power testing showed an estimated power gain of 15.5 horsepower at 3,426 RPM, with this air intake installed on a 2003 Ford F350 with a 6.0-liter turbo diesel engine. Actual results will vary depending on the condition of the vehicle, mileage, weather, and other variables. With the air intake installed, we ran the vehicle on the dyno to test the sound comparison versus the stock intake. The intake kit includes components that have been designed or matched to the needs of these vehicles to produce a safe horsepower increase. Detailed installation instructions are included with this kit. The tools needed for this install are shown. Turn off the ignition and disconnect the negative battery cable. Disconnect the restrictor gauge electrical connection. On vehicles equipped with a mass air sensor, disconnect the mass air electrical connection. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, disconnect the air temperature sensor electrical connection. Release the 4 clamps that retain the front and back ends of the airbox. On vehicles equipped with a 2-piece inlet tube and bellows, loosen the hose clamp that secures the turbo inlet tube to the inlet bellows. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, loosen the hose clamp securing the inlet tube and bellows to the airbox assembly. On vehicles equipped with a 2-piece inlet tube and bellows, loosen the hose clamp at the mass air sensor and remove the intake hose from the vehicle. Remove the filter housing from the vehicle. Remove the airbox base. Remove the airbox top. K&N recommends that customers do not discard the factory air intake. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, loosen the hose clamp that secures the inlet tube and bellows assembly to the turbo inlet. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, using a large screwdriver, pry up the crankcase vent fitting in the valve cover to disengage it from the valve cover. Use care when disengaging the crankcase vent fitting from the valve cover so it is not damaged. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, remove the inlet bellows and tube assembly from the vehicle. Remove the rubber grommets that retain the airbox assembly onto the vehicle. Install the rubber-mounted stud onto the airbox mounting bracket with the provided hardware. Remove the valve cover nut that retains the dipstick to the engine block with a 10mm socket. Assemble the bracket and saddle. Install the saddle bracket assembly onto the engine block and secure with the nut removed in step 12. On vehicles equipped with a 2-piece inlet tube and bellows, install the silicone hump hose onto the stock turbo inlet tube and secure with the provided hose clamp. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, install the silicone hose onto the turbo inlet and secure with the provided hose clamp. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, cut the band clamp that secures the crankcase vent tube to the turbo inlet tube. Then remove the crankcase tube assembly from the turbo inlet tube. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, install the provided grommet into the turbo inlet tube. On vehicles equipped with a 1-piece inlet tube and bellows, install the crankcase vent tube assembly, removed in a prior step, into the grommet in the turbo inlet tube. On vehicles equipped with a one-piece inlet tube and bellows, install the turbo inlet tube assembly onto the turbo. Rotate to align the crankcase vent tube with the valve cover vent port. Snap the crankcase vent tube into the valve cover vent port and secure the tube with the provided hose clamp. Remove the air filter restriction gauge and grommet from the factory airbox. Install the factory grommet and restriction gauge into the K&N intake tube. On vehicles equipped with a mass air sensor, remove the mass air sensor from the factory airbox lid with the provided Torx wrench. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, remove the air temperature sensor and grommet. On vehicles equipped with a mass air sensor, remove the factory O-ring from the mass air sensor. On vehicles equipped with a mass air sensor, install the provided gasket onto the mass air sensor with the sticky side down. On vehicles equipped with a mass air sensor, install the mass air sensor into the K&N intake tube with the provided screws and spacers. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, install the provided gasket onto the mass air block-off plate. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, install the mass air block-off plate onto the K&N intake tube using the provided screws and spacers. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, drill a 5/8" hole at the drill point on the K&N intake tube. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, install the factory grommet and air temperature sensor into the hole that was drilled in the previous step. Install the K&N intake tube onto the turbo inlet with the provided hose clamp. Secure the K&N intake tube to the saddle bracket with the provided hose clamp. Reconnect the restrictor gauge electrical connection. On vehicles equipped with a mass air sensor, reconnect the mass air sensor electrical connection. On vehicles equipped with an air temperature sensor, reconnect the air temperature sensor electrical connection. Install the edge trim onto the heat shield. Trim if needed. Install the edge trim onto the inner hole of the heat shield. Trim if needed. Install the two brackets onto the heat shield with the provided hardware. Do not tighten completely. Install the heat shield assembly onto the vehicle. Mount the heat shield onto the rubber-mounted stud, and then secure the long L bracket onto the airbox mount with the provided bolts and washers. Install the provided rubber-mounted stud onto the K&N air filter. Install the provided silicone hose onto the air filter flange and secure with the provided hose clamp. Install the air filter element onto the intake tube. Adjust all brackets and the heat shield to obtain maximum clearance along the sides and under filter. Then secure the air filter. Install the provided bracket onto the radiator mount stud and the air filter stud with the provided hardware. Reconnect the vehicle's negative battery cable. Double check to make sure everything is tight and properly positioned before starting the vehicle. The CARB exemption sticker included in this kit must be visible under the hood so the emissions inspector can see it when the vehicle is required to be tested for emissions. California requires testing every 2 years. Other states may vary. It will be necessary for all K&N high-flow intake systems to be checked periodically for realignment, clearance, and tightening of all connections. Failure to follow the above instructions or proper maintenance may void warranty. For more product information, go to knfilters.com. K&N makes products for nearly every vehicle on the road. The K&N website allows you to search products by vehicle or dimension, download installation instructions, view dyno charts showing estimated horsepower gains for this product, and view product details. For information on where to buy K&N products, go to knfilters.com.